Hello everybody, this is Michael Stephen Vargas from WeGoChess.com, and I've been wondering about something interesting. Like grandmasters. For us, low rated players, I mean, I'm kinda decent rated, but for us non-professionals, when we enter tournaments, yes, we prepare opening lines, but the opening lines that we prepare are usually just by feeling, right? Because I feel I want to play this line. Some will have some deeper thought into it, but professionals just operates differently than us. And that's the exact question I have been wondering and the one that I will answer in this video, which is how do grandmasters choose which opening to play? First of all, first of all, I am not a grandmaster, but I've seen a lot of interviews made by actual grandmasters, Cora answers made by actual grandmasters, and just some logical reasoning, right? In order to create all the information I have. So if you have any opposing ideas to this, feel free to educate me, everyone, by commenting down below. Yeah, so you can do that. Okay, first of all, this may seem obvious, but one of the reasons grandmasters choose or play a specific opening in a tournament is because they have prepared it. Maybe it's a work by their seconds, those that actually helps them prepare, which seconds is basically their assistants, right? Maybe it's their personal expertise. For example, Maxime Bachar-Lagrave masters the Najdorf, and other similar grandmasters have their own expertise. Maybe that's usually the one that they prepare for. Or again, it may just be a sense of spontaneity, right? On the spot, on the moment, or on the specific tournament that doesn't have any good reason, but they have chosen to play it. So, some openings in a tournament are played because grandmasters do not like a sense of uncertainty. These are professionals. They don't want to delve into uncharted territories against another professional because every individual disadvantages count, and you don't want to waste significant time figuring out the moves against an actual professional. So some will choose an opening because they have just prepared it. I will say that somewhere around 80% of openings that are played in tournament are based from preparation. Maybe even 90%. So it's a debate whether what exactly is the percentage, but the point is it's usually is preparation. That's a big factor of why grandmaster play the opening that they have chosen. Of course, just like I said before, the biggest factor to the preparation is expertise. When a player has a natural expertise about something, a theoretical opening, they don't need a lot of preparation in order to excel for it because they are already an expert upon that. And so they could just, what you would just do is maybe improvise, add a little twist to every individual lines to create something new, or just expand the repertoire, made what they already know deeper, and take out their opponent with that. It's just convenient when the grandmaster is already an expert of that particular line. You can argue that if a grandmaster plays on their expertise, that their opponent are likely to create a counter for such, and yes, this happens in professional play. However, most often than not, the counter is usually also something that the grandmaster have seen over the years and have grown some anti-positional strategy of. So some grandmasters will still choose to play their expertise. Why do grandmasters primarily play through their expertise? Because, or through their preparation, is because it's just risky to gamble in an unprecedented line that is not prepared, especially in a high level where everybody is preparing against each other. So grandmaster just cannot go into a tournament without having a preparation of some kind. Even if they have some expertise a particular opening already, it's still necessary to have some kind of preparation, both for white and black. Playing in an uncharted territory will actually waste a lot of time. And of course, time is also a winning condition in chess. If you do not play in a specified duration of time, you will lose, or it will be a draw. So, uh, having expertise just makes you play faster and more accurate. So that is just the biggest factor why grandmasters choose the opening that they play. Of course, the preparation is not the only factor of why a grandmaster will choose a specific opening. Usually, it is also to counter the weaknesses of specific opponents. So if you haven't noticed already, most chess tournaments only host limited number of individuals. So you could actually prepare an opening for each individual, especially if you know their expertise. There are bunch of mega bases and databases nowadays that players, for example, centuries ago, would never get access of. Now you could just go to basic internet. You can just go to the internet and use some basic search. You don't have to make something complicated, and the information about your opponent is abundant. And so it's easy to find their expertise and to craft a counter against those expertise. Maybe an opponent have lost against a specific opening, so grandmaster may choose to play that opening, or one will have a statistical disadvantage when playing against this their opening, that maybe they have lost like 4 games in that and never won, right? So a grandmaster will look at that and say, I can take advantage of this, and that's also a factor for choosing what opening to play. It is, after all, very easy to observe or to scout an opponent in today's world, since the information is so available. For example, if an unexpected enemy or opponent have a certain style, for example, they are they're aggressive player, right? You could choose openings or an opening that doesn't really fear a lot of aggressive opportunities or attacking opportunities, such as the English opening, for example, and you could play quiet. This is, of course, another factor to all of this. Grandmasters just study the weaknesses of each other. If one is bad at endgames, then one will try to to choose an opening that naturally gravitates to an endgame. For example, the Berlin. The Berlin will easily be can easily transpose into an endgame through its natural moves. Grandmasters just study the weaknesses of each other, and since most who are in higher level have seconds or bunch of assistants, then they will have a whole team, right, to analyze their opponents, and everybody's analyzing each other. And so there's a little bit of statistical and even psychological ways, a factor that a grandmaster can choose their opening with. Another factor that will make a grandmaster play an opening is to achieve a specific result. Some of you might not know this, but a win in chess is not the only desirable result. Sometimes a draw is enough. Getting a win is, of course, fun and good, but it is usually risky, right? You're usually going to give chances to your opponent for a win. If you are going to win, there's also more chances of losing if you mess up. And so, some players will play drawish, let's say drawish openings that they wouldn't have played otherwise, just to achieve a specific result. Maybe they are ahead in the tournament and they just want to end it already, so they will be at top. They could play the English or maybe some Berlin defense, right? Drawish, those are drawish lines. So this is a factor. So even let's say that that particular player doesn't necessarily always likes playing Berlin or English, he can still play it just to achieve a result. Counterintuitively, someone who are trying to catch up in the tournament will play a little bit more risky, right? Because they wouldn't gain anything from being left behind. If they just want a win, they could play aggressive. They could even play gambits. aggressive gambits like King's Gambit. Something aggressive. I can't really think of anything, but something like E4. There are lots of aggressive lines in E4. Or maybe they just want to draw against a specific opponent, probably the one who has the highest rating in a tournament. They might play opening that is a little bit more safe, just so that they have more chances to draw. This is also a factor to what by to which and grandmaster will choose their opening. Now, I wanna get into this one. Sometimes grandmasters will play ridiculous openings that you wouldn't even imagine that to touch the professional scene, such as the King's Gambit, um, not even Gambit, like some Polish openings or Barnes openings, right? If you know that, sometimes grandmasters will choose to play these lines just to throw their opponent off, just to put some sort of psychological pressure. It's rare, but it does happen. Because, for example, if they want something new, something that maybe could shaken up the results to achieve some sort of a weirdness in the position that a grandmasters are usually not used to, in order to just have a decisive result. So this is also a factor. Also, skill level of the opponent is a factor for grandmaster to choose an opening. If a grandmaster is playing against someone who is lower rated, they are unlikely to play the much more drawish, stale, positional style of play that we see a lot of professionals execute these days, because they're playing against lower rated opponent. They are likely to play very romantic chess, aggressive, just because they know that if they just played right, they can beat their opponent. These lower rated opponents are less likely to know the correct replies even to aggressive lines or well-known openings, right? So these opponents are less likely to actually debunk even ridiculous lines played by the grandmaster. So the grandmaster can actually choose to play ridiculous lines if they are sure that their opponent could not respond appropriately. Another factor why a grandmaster may choose a particular opening is some sort of deviation. Perhaps they have prepared something for a specific opponent, however, their opponent played something fishy, something suspicious, and they got the feeling that they are maybe walking into some sort of a really deep preparation, so they choose to deviate into a different opening that they may not even have prepared for. So this is also a factor. If they see a suspicious move, they might be playing another opening even if they have not studied it beforehand. However, if this particular suspicious move is played by a beginner or lower rated player, the grandmaster might not even bat an eye. Now, there isn't always a reason why a grandmaster played a specific opening in a tournament. Sometimes it could be an on-the-spot decision, because grandmasters are humans too, just like us. They have emotions. Sometimes they want to be more adventurous, sometimes they just want to draw, right? Even if it is against their nature, sometimes they just want a different game because they're too bored, right? However, I would note that most openings played in tournaments are really prepared. They are not on the moment, but it can happen in some circumstances. Lastly, grandmasters can actually have different opening choices depending on the time control. So for example, if a grandmaster is playing a faster time control like bullets or blitz, then they are much more likely to play gambits or aggressive lines that they know they can get away with because the opponent doesn't have much time to debunk them. However, if a grandmaster is playing in a classical tournament, they are much more likely to play it safe, to play more boring, stale, positional move to improve just the position because they don't want to take a lot of risk. Time control also dictates, it's also a factor to why certain grandmasters play certain openings. There's just much more chance to make a mistake in faster time controls. If it's longer, people will have more time to think, they are much more likely to play accurate moves. It is unlike in Blitz where even gambits, which are not that well analyzed because they're just bad, but because it's Blitz, there's no more time to think, it could actually even work. So the time control is really a factor still. There are really a lot of factors to which grandmasters choose the opening that they want to play. And I think this is an interesting insight to us because it might not apply to us all throughout. But I think if you're really smart, you can apply it to yourself. If you're entering a competitive play in some form, like you can study your opponent and play their weaknesses, just like how a grandmaster would do it. Overall, it's just an interesting study. Just how to see how the professional do it. So, if you've liked this video, you can feel free to push the like button. And that is all. Sleep well in play chess.